The doctor closed the curtain and said the words like they were stones dropping in water. "It's time to talk about how long you have left." My throat went dry. The beeping machines felt louder. The window showed a blue sky that did not care about me. I looked at my hands. They were thin and spotted, but steady. No flowers on the table. No balloons. No cards. No family. I am Evelyn Hart. I am 83 years old. I have short, soft blonde hair that I keep brushed back with a silver clip. I used to be an elementary school teacher in Ohio. Taught kids to read. I taught them to raise their hands and say please and thank you. I loved simple things. Warm apple pie, church on Sundays, and hearing sparrows in the morning. I thought family was forever. I was wrong. For years. That's how long I have been in and out of this hospital, fighting hepatitis like it's a shadow that keeps coming back when the lights go off. I counted time by the seasons outside the window and the nurses' names on their badges. I counted hope by the days I thought my children would walk in and surprise me. They never did. "Mrs. Hart," the doctor said, polite and careful, "your liver is tired." He stood there, tall and tidy, with kind eyes that had told hard truths to many people. "We can keep you comfortable, but you should make decisions about your things. Your wishes. Your will." My chest hurt, but not from the illness. It hurt from the empty chair by my bed. It hurt from the birthdays with no calls, and Christmas with only the sound of the hallway vacuum. I had built a family like a little house. Now it was as quiet as a grave before the stone. "I understand," I whispered. My voice sounded like paper. He nodded and left. The curtain sighed. The fluorescent lights hummed. A nurse named Megan brought me warm tea that tasted like kindness. "Anything you need, press the red button," she said. She squeezed my shoulder and smiled with honest eyes. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I saved my tears the way poor folks save pennies, in a jar no one sees. I stared at the ceiling and thought about my life like it was a book on my lap. I turned pages in my mind. My wedding day with James in a small white church, the day Daniel and Karen were born, the time we saved up for a vacation at Lake Erie and got sunburned and laughed anyway. I remembered my husband's laugh, deep and warm, and the smell of his aftershave. He passed 9 years ago. After that, the kids called less. They said they were busy. Everyone is busy until they want something. When I was first admitted, I told myself, "They'll come next week." Next week grew old. Holidays came like loud parades that never turned down my street. I bought a cheap smartphone from a hospital volunteer, with my own money, and kept it on the tray. I checked it every morning. I cleaned the screen with the corner of my blanket, like maybe it wouldn't ring if it was dirty. Stayed quiet. Kept asking myself why. Did I fail them? Did I say too much? Not enough. Did I make them feel small? The questions were heavy. They made the bed feel like a boat with a hole. I patched the hole with little things. TV shows, crosswords, and the small joy when the sun moved across the wall. That morning after the doctor left, I pulled the tray close and opened a plain notebook I kept in my drawer. The cover was blue and smooth. Inside I had written lists over the years. Nurse names, prayer lines, my favorite hymns, a few small jokes I didn't want to forget. The last page was blank. I took a pen and my hand did not shake. "Will," I wrote at the top. The letters looked brave. I made them big like the word should take up space. I do not have a mansion or a boat. I do not have gold bars in a safe. I have a little white house back in Millersburg with a small porch and 4 creaky steps. I have a savings account that is not glamorous but not empty. I have a watch my mother gave me when I turned 18. I have a quilt I stitched from baby clothes when my children were small and I had more time than money. I have a tin box of letters from my James tied with a blue ribbon. I have my wedding ring, a simple band with his initials inside. J+E. I made a list of who would get what. A plan began to breathe in my chest. Felt like air after holding your breath too long. Felt like standing up after kneeling. To Nurse Megan, the quilt. She has 2 little boys. I want them warm. To the hospital library cart, my favorite storybooks. Let them find new small hands. To the church in Millersburg, the savings. Most of it, to repair the old roof that drips over the choir. I want people to sing without buckets. To the nursing staff on Ward C, a pizza party fund. From me, because I have watched them work through lunches and smiles. To the young volunteer who reads to Mr. Dunley in room 12, my husband's letters stay with me, but the ribbon can be hers. Ribbons make life softer. To Daniel and Karen, my children, what will I leave? The truth. My pen pressed harder. The ink looked like a road. I thought about the last time I saw them. It was at James's funeral. They were polite and far away, like we were strangers waiting for the same bus. After, there were days of nothing. When I called, I got voicemails. When I texted, I got short replies. Busy. Will visit soon. Soon was a word that lied to me, and I let it. I turned my head and looked at the window. A snow-white cloud crawled slowly across the sky. I wondered if my kids told their friends I was difficult. Maybe I am. Old people can be heavy. But a mother is still a mother, even when she is small in a hospital bed. I rang the red button. Megan came. Yes, Ms. Evelyn. I need a notary, I said. And a lawyer if possible. Someone simple. Someone who doesn't talk in circles. Her eyebrows lifted. You sure? Yes, dear. I'm rewriting my will. She put a hand over her heart. Okay. I'll talk to social services. We can help you with paperwork. Thank you, I said, and my throat burned with gratitude. And Megan? Yes. If anyone asks, especially someone with my last name, tell them I'm busy today. She smiled. Busy lady. Got it. While she walked out, I picked up the pen again. I wrote a letter to Daniel. I used small words. He always said I talked like a teacher even when I wasn't teaching. I wrote, Son, I waited, prayed, forgave. I'm tired now. I wrote a letter to Karen. I wrote, Daughter, I loved you in every season. I wish you had loved me in this one. I paused and listened to the hallway. Cart rolled by. Someone laughed. Machine beep. Life went on like it always does, even when your heart feels like it has a crack. A social worker came in with a stack of forms and gentle hands. Her name was Linda. She spoke slowly and didn't rush me. We went through each line. Beneficiaries? She asked. Church roof, I said. Nurses. Library cart. A pizza party fund. I smiled at that one. And a note for my 2 kids. Do you want to leave them anything else? She asked, not unkindly. Yes, I said. My words. And a lesson. She nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. People who work in hospitals meet more truth in a week than most people meet in a year. We were almost done when a tightness started under my ribs. It was not sharp, but it was deep, like someone was pressing a thumb into a bruise. I closed my eyes, breathed slow, counted to 5. The feeling eased. I opened my eyes and kept signing. When we finished, Linda said, We'll get the notary up. Do you have anyone you want us to call? I looked at my phone, cold and quiet. Then I shook my head. No. Thank you. Left. I held the pen for a long time, as if it could hold me back. The room felt both big and small at once. I thought of the day I taught my first class. I thought of the day James asked me to dance in our tiny kitchen. I thought of the days my children took their first steps toward me, and later, away from me. I slid the will into the blue notebook. I placed it under my pillow, close to my ear like it could whisper strength at night. I reached for my phone and took a picture of the first page. I sent the picture to my own email. I did not know if that mattered, but it made me feel safe. The afternoon shifted. The sunlight moved like a slow river across the floor. I folded my hands and whispered, God, see me. The room was quiet, but my heart heard something tender answer back. That's when I saw the shadow at the door. It stretched long on the tile, tall and narrow. Not a nurse, not Linda, not the doctor. My body went still. The curtain rustled. A figure stood at the edge, and a voice I had not heard in 4 years broke the air. Grandma, the voice said, small and afraid. Please. Don't sign anything until you hear me. The pen slipped from my fingers and hit the tray with a soft click. For a moment I thought I was dreaming. My ears had grown used to silence, to the buzz of machines and the shuffle of nurses' shoes. That voice, cracked, hesitant, and almost childlike, didn't belong here. My heart pounded so hard I thought the monitors would betray me. I turned my head slowly toward the curtain. My lips were dry. "Who's there?" I asked, though I already knew. The curtain pulled back, and there stood my grandson Matthew. Taller now, lanky like a young tree, with sandy hair that fell into his eyes. He was 18 the last time I saw him. Now he had the shoulders of a man, but his face still carried the boy I remembered. The boy who used to tug at my sleeve and beg for cookies. "Matthew," my voice cracked. "Is that really you?" He nodded quickly, stepping inside as though afraid someone would stop him. His hands fidgeted in the pockets of a worn denim jacket. His sneakers squeaked against the hospital tile. "It's me, Grandma." His voice wavered. I had to come before it was too late." My throat tightened. "How did you know?" He shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting to the tray where my pen still rested beside the will. "Mom told me." He swallowed hard. "She said you were fading. She said it wasn't worth coming because you'd be angry. But I couldn't stay away. I couldn't." The words sliced into me sharper than any needle. "Karen, my daughter. My little girl who once clung to my skirt when thunder scared her. She had told her son that I wasn't worth visiting." I pressed my lips together, fighting the sting in my eyes. "Sit, Matthew," I whispered. "Please." He pulled the chair close and sat on the edge, nervous like he might bolt. His knees bounced, his fingers twisted together. He looked at me the way a boy looks at a broken toy. Afraid to touch it, afraid to see if it could still work. "I'm sorry, Grandma," he blurted. "I should have come sooner. I should have written, called something. But they made it sound like you didn't want to see us. That you were mad." "Mad?" I laughed softly, bitterly. "Mad. Darling, I was lonely. That's all. Lonely enough to whisper to the walls at night. Lonely enough to celebrate birthdays with hospital soup." He flinched, guilt spreading across his young face. "I didn't know. I thought you hated us." I reached out my trembling hand, veins blue against pale skin. He hesitated, then took it gently, like holding a fragile bird. Warmth shot through me. My hand fit into his like a memory that had been waiting to return. "Tell me the truth, Matthew," I said. "Why now? Why today?" His grip tightened. His eyes glistened. "Because Mom and Uncle Daniel. They're talking about your house, Grandma. The money. They said once you're gone, it'll all be theirs. But I overheard them. They don't even care about you. Just the will. I couldn't let that be the last thing you believe." The room spun for a second. My children. My own flesh and blood. Planning around my death like it was a yard sale. I closed my eyes, my chest heavy with both rage and grief. "Grandma," he said softly, "don't leave them everything. Please. You deserve better. And they don't." I opened my eyes and studied him. His voice trembled with sincerity. But in the pit of my stomach, a flicker of doubt burned. Why was he here now, after 4 years of silence? Why did he speak of the will so quickly? "Matthew," I said slowly, "do you want something from me too?" He looked hurt. His eyes darted to the floor. "I just want you to forgive me," he whispered. "For staying away. For believing them. For not standing up for you." Tears pooled in my eyes. My heart wanted to believe him, but my mind, sharpened by years of disappointment, hesitated. People return when there is something to gain. I had learned that lesson too well. Before I could answer, the curtain rustled again. My chest froze. And there she was. Karen, my daughter. Her blonde hair tied in a tight bun. Her lips painted with the same red she wore the day she graduated high school. Her arms were crossed, her eyes sharp as knives. "Well," she said coldly, "looks like the old woman isn't dead yet." The monitor by my bed beeped faster. Matthew's hand trembled in mine. Mom, I whispered, my voice breaking. Why now? Why today? Karen stepped forward, her heels clicking on the tile. She leaned close, her perfume sharp and overwhelming. Because, Mother, she said with venom, if you're rewriting that will, I need to make sure you don't forget who your real family is. My pen rolled off the tray and clattered to the floor. Karen's words hit me like a cold splash of water. For a second I could not breathe. Real family. My heart screamed louder than the monitors. I tightened my grip on Matthew's hand, though my palm had gone clammy. Karen, I whispered, my voice thin but sharp. 4 years, not a call, not a visit. And now you stand here with perfume strong enough to choke me, talking about family. Her lips curved into a hard smile. Oh, Mother, don't be dramatic. Life has been busy. Work, bills, keeping Matthew in school. You wouldn't understand. Matthew dropped his gaze, shame flickering across his face. He opened his mouth, but Karen's hand shot out, gripping his shoulder. Not a word, she snapped at him. You've done enough. I tried to push myself up on the pillows, though my body protested. Enough, echoed. He's the only one who showed his face. That's more than I can say for you. Her eyes narrowed, the blue of them colder than January ice. You don't know the half of it. Daniel and I, we had plans. We were waiting for the right time. And now, here you are, scribbling things in a notebook like a silly old woman. Do you think anyone will honor that? I felt my chest tighten, but not from illness this time. From rage. Do not call me silly, Karen Hart, I snapped, surprising even myself with the strength in my voice. I raised you better. I worked extra shifts so you could have that prom dress. I ate soup so you could eat steak. And now you stand here with your hand out like a stranger begging for coins. Her face flushed red, but she didn't back down. You always gave to everyone else, Mother. The church, the neighbors, those kids in your classroom. But never us. Never me. You loved your students more than your own children. Her words struck deep, because some part of me feared they were true. I did pour myself into those children, into their futures. But wasn't that what a teacher and a mother was supposed to do? I loved you, I whispered, my throat raw. I always loved you. Karen leaned closer, her voice dropping into a venomous whisper. Then prove it. Leave the house to us. To Daniel and me. Forget the nurses, forget the church. We're the ones with your blood. Matthew flinched, shaking his head. Mom, stop. This isn't right. Karen's eyes blazed. Quiet, she hissed. Do you think you understand money, Matthew? Do you think you understand what's at stake here? Without that inheritance, we're stuck. And I won't let this old woman throw it away on strangers. I stared at her, my heart pounding. The girl who once sat on my lap, clutching her teddy bear, now spoke to me like a thief in the night. My chest ached, not from sickness, but from betrayal so deep it made my bones cold. Karen, I said slowly, you may have my blood, but right now you don't have my heart. She gasped, her lips parting as though I had slapped her. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. You wouldn't cut us out. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the steady beep of the monitor. I looked at Matthew, his eyes wide, his hand still trembling in mine. Then I looked back at Karen, her face twisted with greed and anger. I wanted to speak, to end the argument, to tell her exactly what I planned. But before I could, the door swung open. Daniel, my son, my firstborn. He stepped in, tall and broad-shouldered, his suit pressed and his tie knotted tight. He looked every inch the successful businessman. His voice was calm, too calm. Mother, he said, his gaze sweeping over Karen, then Matthew, then landing on me. We need to have a family meeting. About your will. My breath caught in my throat. Both my children together, standing at the foot of my hospital bed. Hungry eyes fixed on me like wolves circling a wounded deer. And in that moment I realized. This was no visit. This was a reckoning. Daniel closed the door behind him with a soft click, the kind of sound that feels heavier than a slam. He set his briefcase on the chair in the corner and loosened his tie, but his eyes never left me. Calm, cold, measured, that was always Daniel. Even as a boy, he hid his feelings behind a straight face, while Karen threw tantrums loud enough to rattle the walls. "Mother," he said smoothly, as though we were in a boardroom and not a hospital room that smelled faintly of bleach and despair. "It's time we talked. Honestly." Karen straightened like a soldier with backup now at her side. "Yes, it's time," she echoed, her chin tilted high. I swallowed hard, my throat like sandpaper. "Talk about what?" "About the 4 years you both vanished. About the birthdays you forgot. The surgeries you never asked about." Daniel didn't flinch. He stepped closer, folding his hands behind his back. "We made choices, Mother. Difficult ones. But this isn't about the past. It's about the future." His eyes flicked to the blue notebook under my pillow. "And about the will." Matthew shifted uncomfortably in his chair beside me. "Uncle Daniel, Grandma doesn't need this right now. She's sick." Daniel's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed level. "Matthew, this is exactly the time. If we don't handle things now, it'll be chaos later. Do you want lawyers tearing the family apart? Do you want outsiders taking what's rightfully ours?" My stomach churned. "Rightfully ours." Karen chimed in quickly, her voice sharp. "He's right, Mom. We're your children. We've put up with so much. We deserve the house, the savings, everything." I felt something inside me snap. I pressed my hands against the blanket, forcing strength into my frail voice. "Deserve." I spat the word out like poison. "You deserve to sit in this room with me after 4 years of silence. You deserve to inherit a life you never cared to share. Well, you deserve the truth." For the first time, Daniel's mask cracked. His eyes hardened. "Mother," he said slowly, "don't make this difficult. You don't know how much debt I've been carrying. The house would save me. The money would save Karen. If you cut us out," his voice dropped lower, "you'll regret it." My chest tightened, but I lifted my chin. "I regret one thing already. Raising children who think love is measured in money." Karen gasped, her face flushing with fury. "How dare you?" "Enough," Daniel barked, his voice booming through the room. Even Karen jumped. His composure slipped, and beneath it was a desperation I had never seen before. His hand trembled as he pointed at the notebook. "Give it to me, Mother. Let me see what you've written." The room went silent. Only the monitor beeped, each sound louder than the last. I pressed my back into the pillows, sliding my hand under the thin cotton cover until my fingers brushed the notebook. "No," I said firmly. "This is mine. My words. My choice." Karen's eyes flicked to Daniel's, her jaw tight. They shared a look, one I knew too well. That silent sibling language, dangerous and sharp. "Then we'll wait," Daniel said finally, straightening his tie again, regaining his composure. His voice was smooth once more, but it carried an edge that made my skin prickle. "We'll wait until you're too tired to resist. But understand, Mother, this isn't over." He picked up his briefcase. Karen stayed a moment longer, her glare burning into me like acid. Then she leaned close to my ear and whispered, "You'll regret crossing us." I closed my eyes, forcing back tears. When I opened them again, they were gone. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Matthew still sat at my side, his hand trembling in mine. "Grandma," he whispered, his voice breaking, "what are you going to do?" I looked at him, this boy, this man, who had chosen to stand beside me when no one else would. My heart ached with both love and suspicion. Could I trust him? Or was he just another wolf wearing sheep's clothing? I turned my face toward the window, watching the last light of day sink below the horizon. My voice was low, almost a whisper. "I'm going to teach them a lesson they'll never forget." The monitor beeped steadily. Matthew's eyes widened. And that's when the door creaked open again, this time without a knock. A figure stepped inside, someone I never expected to see again. The figure in the doorway was tall, framed by the dim hallway light. For a moment I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But then the voice came, low and steady, and my heart stumbled in my chest. "Evening, Evelyn," he said. I blinked, my throat tightening. "Robert." He stepped fully into the room, closing the door behind him. Robert Adams. My late husband James's brother. My brother-in-law. I hadn't seen him since James's funeral 9 years ago, the same day Daniel and Karen turned cold. Robert had vanished like smoke, carrying his bitterness with him. "Uncle Robert," Matthew whispered, his brows furrowing. "What are you doing here?" Robert adjusted his coat, his gray hair swept back. His jaw still square though softened by age. He carried himself like a man who had nothing to lose, and nothing to hide. His sharp blue eyes landed on me, then flicked to the notebook under my pillow. "I heard things," he said, his voice gravelly. "About you. About your situation." Chill ran through me. "Heard from who?" I shrugged. "Small town. People talk. Word gets around. Daniel's been loose with his tongue at the bar. Karen too. They've been bragging." His eyes hardened. "About the inheritance." I swallowed hard. Course. My children hadn't just been waiting. They'd been spreading rumors, planting seeds, circling like vultures in plain sight. Robert stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Listen, Evelyn. I know we haven't been close. But I can help you. Lawyers, trustees, whatever you need. You don't want Daniel and Karen tearing everything apart when you're gone." My chest tightened. I studied his face, searching for sincerity. This was the man who once called me sister, and fixed the leaky roof on our first house without asking for a dime. But this was also the man who disappeared after James's death, leaving me to raise questions alone. "Why now, Robert?" My voice cracked. "Why after all these years?" His eyes softened just for a moment. "Because I failed you once. I let grief make me bitter. But when I heard how they'd abandoned you..." He shook his head. "I couldn't stay away." Matthew leaned forward. "Grandma, maybe he really means it. Maybe we can trust him." I turned my gaze to my grandson, then back to Robert. My heart wanted to believe. But doubt whispered in my ear, louder now than ever. Robert sighed and lowered himself into the chair by the window. "You're running out of time, Evelyn. Decide who deserves what. I'll make sure it happens. Even if it means going to court against your own children." The room fell silent. My mind spun. Could I trust a man who had vanished for nearly a decade? Could I trust a grandson who returned only when whispers of money reached him? Could I trust anyone? My fingers brushed the edge of the notebook beneath my pillow. I thought of the quilt, the church roof, the pizza fund for the nurses. Simple gifts of love. And I thought of the greedy eyes of my children. Before I could answer, the door burst open again. Daniel stormed in, his face red with fury. "What the hell are you doing here, Robert?" His voice thundered through the room, making the machines beep faster. Karen trailed behind him, her eyes wide with shock. Robert stood, his jaw clenched. "Protecting Evelyn. Someone has to." Daniel's fists balled at his sides. "Stay out of this. This is family business." Robert's voice was calm but sharp as steel. "Family? You wouldn't know family if it stared you in the face." Karen gasped, covering her mouth. Daniel stepped forward, rage flashing in his eyes. The air crackled with tension. And I realized, this was no longer just a fight over my will. This was a war for my very dignity. And someone was going to lose. The tension in the room was so thick I could almost taste it. Daniel's broad shoulders loomed forward, his fists clenched, while Robert stood unflinching, his frame like an old oak tree refusing to bend. Karen hovered behind Daniel, her eyes darting between the two men, torn between fear and fury. "Get out," Daniel barked, his voice shaking with barely contained rage. "This has nothing to do with you, Robert. She's our mother. We'll decide what happens." Robert's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Funny, Daniel. I don't remember you being here when she needed you. I don't remember you holding her hand through surgeries. I don't remember you visiting even once. All I see is a man sniffing around like a fox at a henhouse, hungry for scraps he didn't earn. Karen gasped. How dare you? Enough, I croaked, my voice breaking the air like a whip. The monitor beeped faster, but I didn't care. I forced myself upright, the pain in my ribs sharp as glass. My eyes burned, but I stared each of them down. Robert's right, I said, my voice trembling with anger, not weakness. Not one of you two, Daniel, Karen, came when I begged for company. Not one of you held me when I cried alone. Now you stand here, circling my bed like vultures. And you dare speak of family. Daniel's jaw worked furiously, his calm mask cracking. You don't understand. I've been drowning in debt, Mother. Karen's been struggling too. You don't know the weight we carry. My hands balled into fists against the sheets. And where were you when I carried weight? When your father died and I had to sell half the furniture just to pay bills? Where were you when I was teaching all day, then cleaning houses at night so you could both go to college? Carried you both for decades. Don't you dare talk to me about weight. Karen's face flushed, her lips trembling. You always make yourself the martyr. You think we owe you forever. But maybe, Mother, just maybe, you weren't as perfect as you thought. Her words sliced me because deep down I had doubts of my own. But I swallowed the pain and sat taller. I wasn't perfect, Karen. But I was there. And that's more than either of you can say. Robert stepped closer to my bed, his voice low and steady. Evelyn, listen to me. Sign the papers. Lock them out before they bleed you dry. I'll stand by you. I'll make sure your wishes are honored. Matthew's hand gripped mine tighter. Grandma, I'll stand by you too. Whatever you decide. Daniel sneered at Robert. You want her will, don't you? Don't pretend this is noble. You've been jealous of our family since the day Dad married her. Robert's eyes flashed. Jealous? Daniel, you've mistaken greed for love your whole life. Don't drag me down to your level. The room felt like it might explode. Karen's breathing was sharp, Daniel's face red with rage, Robert bracing like he was ready for a fistfight. And Matthew, poor Matthew, looked like a boy caught in the middle of a storm too big for him. I closed my eyes, my mind racing. Whom could I trust? Who would carry my last wishes, not twist them? Then, with trembling fingers, I reached under my pillow, pulled out the blue notebook, and pressed it against my chest. Enough, I whispered, then louder. Enough. The room froze. Even the monitor seemed to pause. You want the truth, I said, my voice sharp as broken glass. I already rewrote my will. None of you will see a dime unless you prove to me, here and now, that you remember what family means. Because I'd rather leave it all to strangers than to vultures who call themselves my children. Gasps filled the room. Karen's hand flew to her mouth. Daniel's face twisted with rage. Robert's eyes narrowed. Matthew's hand squeezed mine, trembling with both fear and admiration. And then the door burst open again. This time not with family, but with the doctor, his face pale, his voice urgent. Mrs. Hart, he said quickly, your test results just came back. We need to talk. Right now. The entire room turned to him, the storm suspended in midair. And in that moment, I realized the real bombshell hadn't even dropped yet. The doctor's words sliced through the tension like a knife through silk. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Daniel froze mid-step, Karen's hand dropped from her mouth, and even Robert, so composed, shifted uneasily. Only Matthew's grip on my hand stayed steady, warm against my paper-thin skin. Results? I croaked, my voice little more than gravel. What results? The doctor. Dr. Lewis, a kind-eyed man who had walked me through more test results than I could count, shut the door behind him and stepped forward. His face was pale, his jaw tight. He clutched a manila folder against his chest like it contained secrets too heavy to hold. He cleared his throat. Mrs. Hart, I just got the latest scans. I don't know how to explain this except directly. He opened the folder, glancing down. Your liver function. It's stabilizing. In fact, it's improved. Not just slightly, significantly. The room erupted. Karen gasped. What? Daniel barked. That's impossible. Robert folded his arms, eyes narrowing. Go on, doctor. Dr. Lewis looked up, his expression cautious. I don't know how or why. But if this continues, Mrs. Hart, you could have years, not months. Maybe even a full recovery with the right treatment. My breath caught. The monitor beeped faster, echoing my racing heart. Years. I whispered. You mean? I'm not dying. Not anymore, he said softly. At least not the way we feared. Silence fell heavy after his words. It wasn't joy that filled the room, it was shock. Raw, suffocating shock. Then Daniel laughed bitterly, a sharp sound that made my skin crawl. Well, isn't that convenient, he sneered. She's suddenly better the moment we start talking about the will. Karen's face twisted, panic flashing in her eyes. No, this changes everything. If she lives. She stopped herself, pressing her lips tight. I stared at them both, my children, my blood, watching their faces twist not with relief, not with gratitude, but with calculation. My stomach turned. They weren't happy I might live. They were worried. Robert stepped closer to my bed. His voice calm but cutting. You hear yourselves. Your mother's life has just been extended by God's grace, and all you can think about is what it does to your plans. Shame on you. Karen snapped at him, her voice sharp as glass. Don't you dare judge us, Robert. You've been gone for years. You don't know what we've been through. I know what Evelyn's been through, Robert shot back. Alone. While you two plotted. Matthew's voice broke in, shaky but strong. Grandma. This means you can finish your will your way. You don't have to rush. You don't have to bend to anyone. He shot a desperate look at Daniel and Karen. And maybe this is your chance to make things right with her. But Daniel wasn't listening. His eyes burned into the blue notebook clutched against my chest. Mother, he said slowly, dangerously, you need to think very carefully. Because if you live, and that will goes against us, don't think we'll just sit back and smile. Karen's voice cracked as she echoed him. Yes, Mom. We won't. My chest constricted, not from illness but from the cold truth in their words. My children weren't relieved I might live longer. They were warning me, threatening me. Dr. Lewis looked horrified. Mr. Hart, Mrs. Thompson, this is your mother. Show some respect. But his words fell flat. Daniel straightened his tie, his mask of calm slipping back into place. We'll be back tomorrow, Mother. Think about what's smart for everyone. Karen shot one last venomous glance at Robert, then turned on her heel and followed Daniel out. The door closed behind them, leaving the room heavy with silence. I clutched the notebook tighter, my heart trembling with both fear and resolve. I had been given time, precious time, and I knew with chilling certainty that every day I lived from this moment on would be a battlefield. Robert placed a hand on the foot of my bed. Evelyn, you heard them. They won't stop. You need protection, legal, immediate. Matthew nodded quickly. He's right, Grandma. We can help you. But you have to decide now, who's really on your side. I looked at them both. My brother-in-law who once abandoned me, and my grandson who returned too late but seemed to mean every word. Could I trust either of them? The monitor beeped steadily. The night outside the window grew darker, and in the pit of my soul I realized, rewriting the will had only been the beginning. The real war for my life and my legacy was about to begin. That night sleep did not come. I lay staring at the ceiling, the blue notebook pressed against my chest like a shield. My mind replayed the doctor's words, years, not months, again and again. A gift, second chance. Yet instead of relief, all I felt was dread. Daniel's threat echoed louder in my ears than any monitor beep. Karen's twisted face, her greedy eyes, burned in my memory. My children were no longer children. They were predators. And I, their mother, had become prey. Megan, the nurse with kind eyes, came in quietly to check my vitals. "Blood pressure's high," she said gently. "Rough night." I smiled weakly. "You could say that." She patted my hand. "Rest. You'll need your strength." When she left, Robert moved his chair closer to the bed. His face was shadowed, his voice low. "Evelyn, I've been thinking. If Daniel and Karen want a war, then you have to arm yourself. Not with anger. With strategy." I eyed him carefully. "Strategy?" "Yes," he said firmly. "Move the money now. Put the house in a trust. Make it impossible for them to touch. By the time they realize, it'll be too late." Matthew leaned forward, his young face tense. "Grandma, that makes sense. But, do you trust him?" His eyes flicked to Robert. Robert bristled. "Boy, I don't need a dime. I've made my way without this family for years." "Then why now?" Matthew pressed suspicion in his tone. "Why show up tonight of all nights?" Robert's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. I watched them both, my heart aching. A grandson defending me, a brother-in-law offering salvation. And yet doubt clung to me like smoke. I had trusted before, my own children, and look where it left me. Suddenly the door creaked open again. Not Daniel. Not Karen. A nurse I didn't recognize slipped in, her badge turned backward. She moved quickly, too quickly, to my forestand. Her hand reached for the tube. "Stop!" I rasped, panic shooting through me. Robert was on his feet in an instant, gripping the woman's wrist. "Who sent you?" he growled. She froze, eyes darting toward the door. Then, with a sudden jerk, she tore free and bolted out into the hall. The room plunged into silence. My heart pounded so loud I thought it would burst. Matthew's face went pale. "Grandma. What if she wasn't a nurse?" Robert cursed under his breath. "Your children. They're already moving." I clutched the notebook tighter, fear icy in my veins. If Daniel and Karen were desperate enough to send someone into my room, then this wasn't just about inheritance anymore. This was about control. About silencing me before I could make my move. "Grandma," Matthew said urgently, "you can't stay here unprotected. We need to get you transferred. Somewhere safe. Tonight." Robert nodded grimly. "He's right. If we wait until morning, it may be too late." I stared at them, my heart thundering. The weight of choice pressed heavy on my chest. Should I trust Robert, who once abandoned me but now stood like a shield? Should I lean on Matthew, whose heart seemed pure but whose youth made him vulnerable? The monitor beeped steadily. Outside, the hospital hallway bustled as if nothing had happened. But inside this room, I knew one truth for certain. If I didn't act tonight, I might not live to see tomorrow. The hospital hallway hummed with distant footsteps, carts squeaking, muffled voices. But inside my room, the air was thick with danger. My heart drummed against my ribs as if urging me to move, to act, to end this battle before it swallowed me whole. I drew in a shaky breath and looked at Robert, then Matthew. If I go tonight, they'll come after me. If I stay, they'll send more people like that nurse. Either way, I'm not safe. But maybe that's my advantage. Matthew leaned forward, eyes wide. "What do you mean, Grandma?" I pressed the blue notebook tighter against my chest. "They think I'm weak. They think I'm cornered. But what if I let them believe that, while I finish the one thing they can't touch, the truth?" Robert's eyes narrowed. "You're planning something." "Yes," I whispered, my voice trembling but sure. "I'm going to finalize my will tonight. Right here. With witnesses who care about more than money." I turned to Robert. "You'll be one. And Megan, the nurse who's cared for me all these years, she'll be another. That way, when Daniel and Karen come tomorrow, it'll already be done." Matthew's face flushed with hope. "That's brilliant, Grandma. They won't be able to undo it." But Robert frowned, his jaw tightening. Evelyn, you don't understand. They won't stop at lawyers. If tonight proved anything, it's that they're willing to cross lines you never thought possible. I met his eyes, steady and unflinching. Then let them come. If I've survived 4 years in this bed, I can survive their greed. But I won't leave this world with silence. I'll leave with a legacy they can't erase. The door opened again. This time it was Megan carrying a clipboard. She stopped short when she saw the tension on our faces. Is everything okay? No, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. But it will be. Megan, I need you as my witness. Tonight. We're finishing my will. She blinked, surprised, but then nodded quickly. Of course, Mrs. Hart. Whatever you need. Robert paced near the window, muttering. They'll come back. You're painting a target on yourself. Then let them, I said sharply. Because when they do, they'll find out the truth. I already left them what they deserve. Matthew frowned. What did you leave them, Grandma? I looked at him, tears filling my eyes, and whispered. The truth in black and white. A letter telling them they were loved. And that they lost that love the moment they turned it into greed. Megan's pen scratched against the paper as I dictated each word. My hands shook, but my voice grew stronger with every line. I left the house to the church, the savings to repair the roof, the quilt to Megan's children, the books to the library cart. I left kindness where my children had left only silence. When it was done, I signed my name with trembling fingers. Megan signed. Robert signed. The blue notebook was no longer a draft. It was final. I leaned back against the pillows, exhausted but relieved. It's done, I whispered. They can't stop it now. But just as the relief washed over me, the door burst open one last time. Daniel stormed in, Karen at his side, their eyes wild with fury. Karen's voice was a shriek. What did you do? Daniel's face twisted, his voice low and dangerous. Mother, tell me you didn't. The monitor beeped faster, my pulse racing. But I didn't flinch. I met their eyes, steady and unbroken. It's over, I said, my voice a blade of steel. You came too late. Their faces drained of color. For the first time in years I felt power return to me. Not in my body but in my spirit. The war was finished. And I had won.